Well, I've done it, folks. I've found one of the most deranged horror slashers that I've ever seen. And when I say found, that actually is the predecessor movie that helped me find the movie that I'm going over today, Headless. Headless is a 2015 horror slasher movie that was directed by Arthur Cullifer and was a Kickstarter-funded movie. Why was it a crowd-funded movie? Well, because it was originally a movie within a movie. The movie titled Found from 2012, directed by Scott Schirmer, featured a movie within a movie, and that movie was Headless. Quite like how the movie Machete was birthed from being a trailer to the 2007 Robert Rodriguez movie Planet Terror. Everyone remembers that, right? Fans poured out with pleas for this movie within the movie Found to be made as a standalone movie, and so a Kickstarter was made, and it is how we now have one of the most brutal cinematic experiences that a horror fan could wish for. Now, before I begin, I'm going to give you a massive warning. This movie is ultra violent, and it is conceptually one of the darkest visual spectacles I've ever seen. So with that being said, I'm going to try to tiptoe around the context of this movie due to YouTube's terms of service and try to convey to you guys just how brutal this movie is. Seriously though, this movie is fucked up. So if you're squeamish or you can't handle extreme content, albeit fiction, I urge you to tread lightly. As the movie opens, we get a grindhouse feature style advertisement for a movie that is reminiscent of the 70s theater experience, and it's kind of fun to see. The trailer is kind of wild and funny because it shows two young lovers and they're using drugs, and then all of a sudden the man is transforming into a werewolf, and he tells his girlfriend to shoot him. Then after she shoots him, we can see her writhing in pain as she's looking down at her pregnant stomach, and we can see that whatever she's pregnant with is doing a bit of squirming around, to say the least. An officer cautiously approaches the vehicle to find there is a bloody, grotesque, and large creature birthed on the now dead mother's lap, to which the name of the movie is revealed, and it's kind of funny because the name of the movie is Wolf Baby, and the narrator repeats it 3 times.
Wolf baby. Wolf baby. Wolf baby.
Very odd and comical, kind of fever dreamish. Now we get into the actual movie Headless. So our opening shot and title screen shows us that the director was giving this movie a 70s treatment, because it even states that the movie was made in 1978 and features some foreboding 70s style score and a grainy overlay as we see the silhouette of the assumed killer standing in some kind of industrial abandoned area. As the actor and actress's opening credits roll through, we can hear faint clipped together news headlines of how there's been a string of mysterious disappearances in the area and how officials are urging caution to people. This opening sets the narrative to how visceral and dark the overtones for this movie are about to get as we see a woman begging for her life and we hear the captor's maniacal laughter. What's up guys, it's Editing John. I just wanted to go over the fact that the more I was going over these clips in this movie, I really have to be careful about what I show because it's crazy gory and I don't want YouTube coming after me. I hear the government's microchipping cheese now, so I'm not trying to get doxxed by YouTube and have them come and, beat the tar out of me. So I'm going to do my best to tiptoe around this, all right? Thanks. I want to take a second to interject here as I feel it is necessary to explain something. The scene that is opening is actually harkening back to the movie Found from 2012 that I also watched, in which the younger brother in that movie finds his older brother's movie collection and he finds the movie Headless. When he pops the VHS in, the viewer is given a spliced together montage of some of the killer's primary kills that depict just how evil and depraved he is. The opener to the actual Headless title takes a small sample of that montage from Found and retouches what happened in that film to shape the setting for this feature film. Touching back to what I said earlier on just how visceral this movie is, lends its hand from the practical effects. They are visually fucked, which is a testament to the talent of the special effects team on this movie. Now, while I definitely cannot show a lot of the effects in this movie, just know that the reason this movie is called Headless is because the killer in this movie prefers the method of making people lose their heads and then proceeds to do vile things to their heads after the fact. What kind of vile things, you might ask? Oh, I don't know. He just usually goes about his business with them by removing their eyes with a spoon and eating them, which in its own right is pretty messed up if you ask me. But he seems to have this special ritual in which the eyeballs seem to be his favorite treat. And if you can imagine that they are likely very squishy and have lots of goo in them, then I'm pretty sure I just gave you a very bad image in your head as to what the scene looks like when he's having himself a munch. And if you think of what it's like when you bite down on your favorite food you haven't had in a while, and the expression your face makes likely when pure bliss washes over your brain, yep, that is the face the killer makes when he's chowing down on the optical organs of his victims. But wait, there's more. And this is where things get real dark, and I'm not even sure how to go about saying this, but he takes his victims' heads, unzips his fly to his drawers, and then does the unthinkable. And yeah, I think you get the idea. The noises he makes while doing this are very disturbing as well. And just like I said before, with the description I just gave you now, which is the PG version, seems like a little bit too much for you, then I would suggest you try to pass over this movie. We see throughout this movie that he continues this display of capturing and tormenting his victims until he decides to dispatch them, and then repeats his post-mortem ritual with each and every one of them. This dude does it all, bathes in his victims' blood, poses their bodies at their dinner table, sands the head because those go on the mantle, and then when he wants to rotate out his dinner company at the table, you know, just to keep things fresh, he disposes of them in a pit out on his farmland. And this pit has no shortage of bodies. As a matter of fact, we see later in the movie, one of his victims tries to escape and winds up down in the pit, and let's just say the killer has more bodies down there than the fields of a 15th century battlefield. Our killer wears this disturbing skull face mask when he is out on his prowls looking for victims, and then when he returns from a successful sickening hunt, he removes his mask and sleeps in a very large cage which is meant for a dog. This gets explained a little later in the movie. After we see the opening scenes of depravity that make this man tick, we see that he dwells in a farmhouse that is a complete shithole. He's let the place go to hell. But I guess, who has the time to keep up with the aesthetics of a household when you're busy finding a victim and then basically doing the worst things you can to them? That has to be real tiring. Speaking of tiring, this movie really spells out the day-to-day habits of the killer by literally showing what his existence is: killing and sleeping. And when he goes to sleep, we get introduced to these dreams that he has that are very strange and ethereal of him making love to some pale-skinned, eyeless woman. It is very strange and feels like a fever dream. It also lends itself to the symbolism of how he likes to eat his victims' eyes. Now you might ask yourself why? Why does this man do the things he's doing? Why not clean up, get a nice corporate 9 to 5, and get some nice curtains for the farmhouse down at the Bed Bath & Beyond? Well, a little backstory that we get is his abusive mother and sister liked to torture him as a young child. They kept him locked in a cage, gave him dead animals to consume for sustenance, and his older sister would pee on him while he was in the cage. So yeah, I guess that is why he wasn't cut out for the white-collar lifestyle. His sister is a fucking weirdo too. She teases him in this risque type of way, which is like incestuous and just feels very uncomfortable, which goes to say why this young child, who is mute by the way, grew up the way that he did. The director did a great job making sure that everything about this movie feels very disgusting and wildly uncomfortable. The killer in fact has delusions of seeing himself as a younger version that guides him to his next evil act of hunting down his victims. He is a pure brute with nothing but murder and the pursuit of dark pleasures on the mind. The movie kind of flows with a rinse and repeat kind of pattern, so I don't think I really need to sit here and tell you that it has a deep plot progression, but it was a fun flick to watch, albeit very dark. There are some creative kills and fantastic sound design in this movie that makes it feel as if we are really transported back to a retro time in the 70s. As completely mind-bogglingly messed up as this movie is, for any fans of slasher flicks, I would say it's a fun watch, but remember, this is as dark as they come. I would say Headless is on the same frequency of Terrifier in terms of gore and practical effects, but I would say that the context and the subject matter of Headless is much more extreme because of the depictions of depravity when it comes to human decency, I guess you could call it. There are some fun characters that we follow, and while this movie isn't a benchmark for excellent acting, it's actually not bad either. The writing is about what you would expect from a grindhouse-style gore fest that primarily tries to deliver on shocking the viewer, which I will give it an A+ to that because this movie is more than shocking. Who would I recommend this movie to? That's hard to say. I would say that if you have seen movies like Terrifier and Martyrs and you were able to handle them easily enough, I would say take a swing at this one. If you have trouble with gore or anything in the assault category that might trigger you, then stay away from this one. It's very depraved, and this one will leave you probably not sleeping anytime soon. I'm always looking for new horror movies, good or bad, or entertaining or disturbing, so let me know what you want to see me review next down in the comments below, or you can email me at the address on the screen, and I'll also leave that in the description below. And if you liked the video, please be sure to leave a like and a subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.